has always loved literature and received her bachelor's and master's degree in English from the University of Oregon. Go Ducks! She worked as a journalist, then as a bike shop owner. Before starting her teaching career, she taught English for 16 years, including the last 10 at Lower Columbia College, and we were very lucky to have her. And I had the pleasure of teaching integrative studies classes with her for the last 2 years, which was probably the highlight of my teaching career. She retired last spring, but we are very glad to welcome her back. Please welcome Joan Herman.
Thank you, Courtney, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today, back on my old stomping grounds and seeing some very friendly faces. So, what I am going to talk to you about today is one of my favorite writers and a wonderful novel that she wrote. And I really want to start my presentation by asking for a show of hands to the question, how many of you have heard of Frankenstein? Kind of a trick question, huh? I suspected that might be the case. Maybe I should ask, has anyone not heard of Frankenstein? No hands. Well, I wonder why that is. Of course, all of you have, as the central character in both the book and the numerous film adaptations, is arguably the best, or at least on a short list of the best known characters in all of English literature, perhaps even all of literature of any language. Even more so than some other iconic literary figures who also have had numerous film adaptations made about them. Jane Eyre, Elizabeth Bennet, ring a bell? For some of you, but probably not all. So what I want to talk to you about today in part is how the story of a monster/creature fabricated from the body parts of dead people and numerous animals speaks to issues of great concern today, despite the fact that it was written 200 years ago by a London-born teenager named Mary Shelley. Now, just a side note, throughout my talk, I will refer to this nameless creature or nameless central character as both monster and creature, as he is referred to both throughout the novel, depending on who is speaking about him or describing him. Now, while on the surface, Frankenstein would appear to be a simplistic story fit for a grade B movie replete with scary monster, Shelley's novel actually is much more complex, combining several motifs. It is a coming-of-age tale, the monsters/creatures. It is a narrative that provides a frame in which to ask life's big questions. It can be read as an indictment of the science at any cost approach. And finally, but certainly not least, it provides a severe critique of the human propensity to label as threatening, even evil, those who appear different from ourselves. No modern-day corollaries here, are there? Yet, on another level, the novel's story about the monster/creature's dispossession and alienation also mirrors that of a woman writer in the extremely patriarchal society of the early 19th century in which Mary Shelley was writing. Now, first, a brief recap of the story, as most of us generally know it, and that is from the many film versions made of the book. And of course, they all vary somewhat, but they have a general theme, generally speaking. An obsessed scientist, and by the way, Frankenstein refers to the scientist, not the monster, as most viewers generally believe today. So this obsessed scientist embarks on a quest to create the perfect human being from body parts of humans and other species that he has scavenged from mortuaries, grave sites, and slaughterhouses. And after laboring in isolation, the monster he brings to life on the quintessentially dark and stormy night is far, from the perfect being that he had envisioned. Instead, his creation is, in Dr. Frankenstein's words, a repulsively ugly monster of superhuman strength. When he first sets eyes on this quote-unquote devil come to life, again, Dr. Frankenstein's characterization, he rejects him, fleeing from his lab and the creature he has essentially just given birth to. Now completely alone in this strange new world, unfeeling, unthinking, this two-dimensional, unfeeling, unthinking monster whose overriding emotion is one of rage and a desire to commit violence, also flees from Dr. Frankenstein's lab and ultimately wreaks havoc wherever he goes. Now, that's the general movie version, and of course there are exceptions and variations, but that's the general characterization that we get of this monster. Now, some of the details from this general version are accurate, faithful to Shelley's novel, but certainly not all, and that's what I'm interested in. So let's watch a trailer for the 1931 film version starring Boris Karloff. Just get it.